Jagex is fundamentally rewriting how ranged works in the latest beta. As someone who has made this style for years, I can tell you, some of these changes are the modernization we've been begging for. But others might just strip the soul out of the style. Today we're finding out if range is finally evolving, or if it's just being simplified into the ground. Let's start with the good. One of the best field changes in this beta is Snapshot losing its cooldown. Historically, range has always been a style of constant interruption, waiting for timers while managing stacks. Removing the cooldown makes the style feel snappy and responsive, much like the soul of Necromancy. It's a huge win for mid-game players who want to feel powerful without staring at a spreadsheet or getting a ton of EOFs. However, this is where my one-trick concerns kick in. Snapshot is currently doing only 10% less ability damage than Z-Bow, but it's infinitely more spammable. Here's the math problem. If Snapshot is too efficient, it invalidates the need for a varied rotation. We risk entering a basic snap loop for new players. This effectively kills the aim for the skill ceiling that range is known for. Why bother with complex EOS swaps or time thresholds when you can just smash one button for decent DPS? Snap still firmly belongs in the good category, but ironing out the balance here is critical. Next up is the total rework of Snipe. Jagex has turned it from a clunky filler basic into a massive damage dealer with a 60-second cooldown. Historically, Snipe was the backbone of no one's rotation. It was situational at best. But with this 60-second cooldown, it becomes a high-impact tactical tool. When you pair this with the Nightmare Gauntlets, which give your Snipe an extra hit while flanking, you aren't just using a basic anymore, you're dropping a nuke. This actually rewards players for understanding boss positioning and timing their biggest hits, rather than just clicking it because it's off cooldown. Last in the good is Deadshot. Historically, Deadshot was a slow bleed that didn't really benefit from Death's Witness. It felt weak for an ultimate, but in this beta, its function has been completely overhauled into a multi-hitting beast. This gives Deadshot the heavy-hitting ultimate feel it desperately was lacking. Before this, if you had 60% adren, you'd almost always rather click Darkbow. But now Deadshot actually synergizes well with the existing kit. Because it hits multiple times, it's proccing your bolt effects and arrow stacks rapidly, while actually scaling with your damage buffs. It's no longer a niche bleed, it's a core rotation powerhouse. Moving into the bad, we have to talk about the greater ricochet changes. In this beta, Rico has been modified so all extra hits only target a single enemy, which is great in concept. I understand Jagex's logic, they want standard ricochet to feel like a meaningful progression step. But for those of us who actually use range in dungeons or AoE scenarios, this feels extremely weird. One of the best parts of range utility was using Rico to group up new targets or tag a room. Now that's impossible. My solution is simple. Keep Rico exactly as it is now. It's an iconic powerful ability. Instead give range a dedicated AoE ability that functions like the old Rico. We shouldn't have to sacrifice the ability to group targets just to make the progression curve look prettier on paper. Next is Splinter Shot. In theory, it's a cool addition, but in practice it lacks any real oomph. Right now it feels like a worse version of the ECB spec, but with a higher functional cost. Range already struggles with the adrenaline gain outside of the crit buff window. By removing Wen-sporing in this beta, Jagex has actually accentuated the style's biggest flaw. In my testing, Splinter Shot was purely a pre-built ability. Once the fight actually starts, the adrenaline cost versus the payoff just isn't there. But here's the kicker. Mathematically, it's worth using. It adds over 100k damage during its duration, but because it has almost no visual presence as a buff, it feels like a chore rather than a power-up. I'd rather see a different type of buffing ability, something like Chaos Roar, where your next ability gets a massive flat damage buff per hit. Let us feel the impact of the buttons we're pressing. Last in the bad is Bombardment. Jagex gave it better numbers, but it still feels incredibly awkward to use. It completely fails to bridge the gap in ranged lack of AoE. Bombardment has always been a bit of a noob trap threshold. Even with the damage buff, its mechanical reach is too small. This becomes a massive issue now that Greater Ricochet can't pull targets together anymore. We're left with a style that hits like a truck on one target, but feels helpless when the room has any mobs. It's a missed opportunity to give range a proper AoE tool, like Necromancy's Threads of Fate. Finally, we have to talk about the ugly, and it starts with the new basic attack. The range really need an auto attack you can spam click. Honestly, what does this accomplish? As a long time player, you could already easily cycle Dazing Shot and Piercing Shot to fill the gaps. This new system doesn't just feel unnecessary, it fundamentally breaks the tech we spent years mastering. In the live game, high level range can weave in more DPS with auto attacks during ECB specs or Death's Witness for that extra bit of damage. This change deletes that, and even worse, it seems to have broken Smoke Cloud entirely, currently crashing the client or locking you out of casting it smoothly. It's a solution in search of a problem. If Jagex really wanted a spammable filler, they should have just removed the cooldown from Dazing Shot instead. They've added a layer of clutter that helps no one and punishes high effort play. Now for the elephant in the room, the removal of Wen-sporing. If Jagex really wants to go down this route, both Wen arrows and Death Spores need a total rework. What made them great was their synergy, the skill expression of clicking those two buttons back to back to manipulate your stacks and adrenaline. Both of these hungry for that Dracolich boosted Rico, and only getting one effect now feels terrible. This removal helps no one. Beginners when Wen-sporing anyway, so they don't gain anything from this being gone. It only removes tools from advanced players. So my solution is, make Incendiary Shot give the crit buff immediately and reduce its adrenaline cost. If you can't cheat the adrenaline with the spores, the ability needs to be more accessible. Or we change Death Spores to be received on hit rather than on crit. Removing this interaction deletes the soul of the modern range rotation without offering a replacement that feels just as good. Overall, I think the current suggested changes feel awkward. What power there is in the new abilities doesn't feel as satisfying to use as the previous skill expression. I would still keep some of the changes discussed. Deadshot and Snipe are fantastic, but a lot of this needs to be rethought for a successful rework. We need modernization, not homogenization.